Welcome to this latest edition of the Delivery Profits, brought to you by the Delivery World together with Avico. As always, we're so grateful for you all out there who tune in regularly for this podcast. Without you, we're just a bunch of guys and gals talking to each other in a recording studio. I'm Peter Backman, and today, together with John Borzichiello and our special guest Gavin Smith, Managing Director of Pizza Pilgrims, as usual, we'll talk about delivery in general and ways to make it accessible and hopefully profitable. And no doubt we'll get on to other topics too, as we try to get a deep understanding of the forces shaping this rapidly evolving sector. But before we get on to that, John, any comments about the world as you see it at the moment?
I was going to talk to you, Peter, about a summer of sport that we've just had. What a great thing for the hospitality business, both insights and for delivery, that we've finished the Premier League, we've had the FA Cup, we've gone on to the Euros where England got to the final. Unfortunately, we couldn't get all the way, but what a good start that was. And then, of course, we had the Olympics, which was fantastic. Team GB performed really well. But
what about the Americans? What about the other countries as well?
And nice to see them, Peter, but we're doing this in England. I know we have an international following, and it was a great show that France put on, talking about it, to be fair. What a great Olympics it was. But so nice to see the country behind bars were full. People, when you talk to operators, were getting home deliveries in and almost making it an occasion. So, yeah, great summer of sport. And now, of course, we're back to the Premier League, where we've got to see if Leicester can stay up this season, Peter.
Well, Leicester and Fulham, that's our pain points.
Yes.
Anyway, let me start off with some notes that I prepared before. Exclusivity is great. It may imply quality, or it may mean getting something that others don't have, or it may be a way to keep competition away when customers who are offered an exclusive service. All of these, of course, come at a price, and that's the point. Exclusivity plays its part within the world of restaurant delivery, of course. But when the delivery company says, use my service and I'll charge you less, what's the price? The answer is a lost opportunity. The lost opportunity to maximize sales. If there isn't exclusivity, the restaurant will probably generate more orders, and that probably means more sales. But the lower charge levied by the delivery company offsets the orders lost by the restaurant. Of course, it's extremely difficult to assess how this equation works. How much business is lost in practice, and does the lower charge actually cover the lost business? So the decision to accept an exclusivity deal becomes a judgment call. For some restaurant chains, the small handful of major chains I suggest, the answer can be gleaned from multiple data points. But for most restaurants, there is no clear answer. And in my experience, that means factors other than money play a role. What reputation does the delivery company have for delivering on its promises? What is the nature of the relationship between restaurant and delivery company? These, and I'd guess many other factors too, are the basis for decisions on exclusivity. And for delivery companies, it seems to me that the implication is to make sure to pay as much attention to issues like these as to the discount you're offering. John, do you have any thoughts on that before we turn to our guest?
Peter, as you know, I don't sit on the fence with aggregators, and I'm not going to today. The fact of the Deliveroo's, Ubers, Just Eats of this world are in it for themselves. Number one is these guys have businesses that they are running. They're data companies. They own a lot of data. The likes of Uber, we had the MD for Europe on for Uber, and Uber is a complete business. It's not just the meal delivery solution. Whether you want to now get a train ticket, a plane ticket, whether you want to get a taxi from A to B, Uber offers that complete delivery solution. I can't comment on costs because we can speculate what they are, but we don't know. But talking to guests, it seems really apparent that as soon as you take one platform away, there isn't as many orders, because what the platforms have done have got followings. So you have a following of Deliveroo, you have a following for Uber. Yes, people will cross, But it's like anything, you go down one route because that's you're used to it. You're used to how their app works. You're used to how it does it. Apart from if your favourite restaurant's on another one, is that where the cross point could be?
It's a very complex argument. I try to simplify it, perhaps oversimplifying it. Anyway, now's the time to turn to our guest, Gavin Smith. Gavin is the managing director, as I said before, of Pizza Pilgrims. And he, like you, John, he's a chef by trade. And that gives him, I guess, a great understanding of actually what makes this world work. And it's about people rather than product, I'd venture to say. So, Gavin, welcome. Welcome. John and I have been chatting. Anything you want to say about the Euros or Uber or anything?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. It was a great summer of sport, wasn't it?
Definitely.
Again, we were let down with the football, but it was a brilliant summer of celebration, actually, wasn't it? I thought the Olympics were outstanding. They always are. So, no, I'd really, really enjoyed it. But as an avid Liverpool fan, I'm excited for us to come forth again, watch Manchester City walk off into the sunset with all the accolades. But no, it's great to be here. As you said, Peter, people say I was a chef, I am a chef. And I think my whole life and my career and people I spend time with revolves around food and hospitality. And I think we're very privileged to work in the industry that we are. And we've got many, many examples in our business of people that have grown to have really successful careers and will go on to have successful careers. But I think there's so many, so many topics that we could touch on. And when you talk about delivery and do we prefer exclusivity versus not, it's very relevant to us. We've recently gone through a renegotiation with our exclusive partners, which is with Deliveroo. And I think it's been really, really interesting watching the last 3 or 4 years in that space, because ultimately it comes down to trust, would be my view. And by that I mean our relationship with Deliveroo hasn't always been easy, but actually I do think they want the same thing. They need brands. I think that's the learning over the last 10 years, that these aggregators do need brands. They don't just want to deliver the services themselves. I think Deliveroo still have a pizza restaurant of their own, which they're trying to learn from, but they need brands. And I think how we stand out in that digital marketplace is becoming more and more complicated. And actually, I don't necessarily agree that exclusivity is bad, because if you say, John, that, the win of having a Just Eat, Uber Eats and Deliveroo will give you more revenue, that's very clear. But actually, we're assuming that the capacity allows us to take that. We're assuming that we want that impact in a pizzeria when we don't really have the capacity to do it. And whilst those things can be fixed over time, I think having one focused partner has allowed us to be able to enhance the experience, enhance the product quality, the operational metrics, of which there are many, which are super important to make sure that we still delight our customers at home as well as in the pizzeria. So my sense, and not having worked in QSR, it's only a sense, is that for a QSR business, I think having a multi-channel, multi-platform approach probably makes most sense. And I think as a focused pizza business who are incredibly obsessive and passionate about our product, I think having one partner that we can work with and really build that relationship has been beneficial to us, and we still feel that way. But yes, the commercials sometimes would say move to a multi-platform approach. I do think there's arguments both sides of the aisle.
Gavin, can I just ask what approximately your split is between dine-in restaurant customers and a takeaway delivery?
19% of our revenue is not eaten. Okay. There are 4 channels that we have that are not eaten. Delivery with Deliveroo is the predominant channel. So that's 95% of all of our non-eaten. And then we have Just Eat for Business, we have takeaway, click and collect. So yeah, about 20%, 20% is what we're happy with, actually. We don't really want that to be 25%. And that can vary quite vastly from restaurant to restaurant. We have businesses that we simply can't turn on Deliveroo because the capacity isn't there. And we have 3 or 4 locations where we're close to 30%. So it is a blend. And I think you have to have a very, very specific approach to how you work with Deliveroo or any aggregator in each pizzeria. And we're we're learning all the time. But it's becoming more and more scientific. I think it's becoming harder to stand out. And I think the evolution of the delivery partners has been very interesting because they need to turn a profit. And that's okay. But the way that they have to do that, where you've got consumers who are cash strapped, where you have people demanding value, I think, and we've had this conversation quite openly with Deliveroo, is value, I don't think, is just about price. Value is the intersection of quality and price. It's why Ferrari is great value at that price, and a pizza is great value at £10-15. And that has been a real thorn in the side for the delivery aggregators over the last 12 months. There has been almost, there was an occasion last year where they really wanted us to be price matching. We charge £1 more for our pizza delivered on Deliveroo than we do in the pizzeria. And that helps us offset the costs of doing business there to make sure the quality is protected. Rightly, Deliveroo, I'd argue, there are some businesses that were charging 35 to 40% more. And there are others which protect the same price that they have Eat In. Look, there are brands out there that price match, but their price, I think, is high. So that it's easier for them to do it. And because they will be the bigger players, they're also working on a lower commission, and therefore it's easier to do. So I think it's very nuanced. My concern would be for the new entries to the market, really. How do they compete as successfully when they might be paying a 35% commission? And their overall economic model will be much more difficult than an evolved business. I'm sure I answered your question.
No. It's interesting, Peter, isn't it? Because we've spoke many a time around experience in a restaurant. Before Gavin's just said that 80% of the customers are actually dine in a restaurant. So as you take that, you're a restaurant business that does this piece on the side for Pizza Pilgrims. This is where we've come to, isn't it? It's not a Domino's that is only a delivery business. It's a customer-focused business.
Yeah, and that then, in a sense, means you may be running two businesses. At least that's my view. Gavin may well have a different view. You're actually running at least two businesses. One is where you're interacting with customers and doing all the customer things that are great. And then the other bit is much more transactional, where you are delivering a product or having a product delivered that you've made. And I don't know whether that actually turns you into two businesses, and it probably partly depends on what you see is what you are actually trying to do as a business. Are you selling food, or are you offering an experience? And I'm in danger of A, repeating myself, and B, going on too much. But I don't know whether running two businesses is a correct way to look at this whole delivery.
I think I've probably changed my view over the last couple of years on this. We're very much trying to enhance the relationship, double down on a partnership. And that requires a little bit of us looking in the mirror. So is it two businesses? Well, yes, in terms of how we reach the customer, of course it is. But we look at the opportunity and say, well, are there customers that we're only servicing through delivery? And then what does that mean? Like, how do we excite them? How do we connect with those people? So we're in the process of really stepping up our CRM game at the moment, and with the use of technology and people, of course, but how do we connect the customers that eat in a pizzeria who may have a retail product with our name on it, may have Deliveroo? How does that whole sphere come together? And how do we make sure that we recognise the people that come most and who are raving fans? So that's one part of it. I think there's also a realisation that you need to design your restaurants, pizzerias for us differently. So we've got a site here actually in Waterloo in Lower Marsh, which was the first site we were able to design in a way that really does lean into delivery. So we have two entrances, we have a separate pass, and it obviously now gives us better operational metrics. It's easier for the team to deliver, forgive the pun. But that's not always possible. We just agreed terms on a site in Chelsea, and we know that's going to be a really busy Deliveroo zone for us, but we're unable to put that separate entrance, Deliveroo pass, etc. in there. So we'll use technology. So how can we build something outside that keeps the riders warm in the winter? How can we use technology to make sure that experience is slick for the rider, more and more, I think that partnership has become prevalent in our space. And if you go back, not even 10 years, it was very incremental, right? So restaurants on the high street, well, if you turn this on, you might take 3, 4, 5% more in revenue. And it's easy because you've already got the staff here. And that was, I think, very much how it started. I think COVID was a real change. It galloped forward 10 years, in my view, as a restaurateur, because when you turn the lights off inside a pizzeria or a restaurant and you only have delivery, you lose money because you still pay all of the bills that you were paying before. And I think that really created a bit of a problem between restaurants and delivery partners, because there was a little bit, I guess, of blame, like you are charging us too much. But actually, to work in harmony, you need the right commission, you need the right sales level, you need the right quality. We've got a very clear 3-year plan of how we will attack this. And one of the first things we decided to do this year is to employ someone full-time to own this. We're currently in the process of doing that because it is a full-time job. Previously, it was something that we did as part of our job. And I think increasingly we need to be looking at the data more scientifically. We need to be innovating the packaging. We need to be thinking carefully about how big and small we want the radiuses to be. But is it a separate business? No, I don't think it is. It's for us as I guess what you might term a casual dining restaurant business. It's part of and an extension of our business. If you start talking about dark kitchens and marketplaces, market halls, etc., I think they have a place. The reason that we have never done that to this point is about people. And we talk to our teams and we can see what makes them tick. They love working as part of a team in a dynamic environment where they can interact with customers. And that's very much more difficult to deliver for them in a dark kitchen. So that's why we've never gone down that route. Could it change in the future? Potentially. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question in 15 different ways.
No, that's perfect. And I just want, there's a couple of points I want to ask you about that, if I'm honest. But one we'll leave for the future. But the one where you say engage with customers through delivery only is really interesting for me. So I live up in Leicestershire, where I haven't got Pizza Pilgrim, can't order it through delivery, can't go to a restaurant.
Yes.
When I'm in London, hopefully, then when I'm in London, I use you guys. But you also mentioned COVID, and I want to just touch on this pizza in the post. I ordered it several times during COVID because it was a way of, number one, having some time at home with the children, making pizzas and having that fun, but getting the quality of your pizza and your dough at my house. How was that for you guys? Because you said how you had to close the restaurants, close the pizzerias overnight, turn the lights off.
Yeah.
Is that something that really worked for you?
It was. It absolutely. It's a fascinating story, but I remember being stood outside a pub in Soho with both of our founders, and just so happens this pub, the John Snow, and there is a place right next to this pub which marks where I think the cholera epidemic started in London, and we were stood there with a pint in our hand the day that Boris locked us down, and we were all thinking it could be 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. Obviously that turned out to be wrong, but we asked ourselves, look, what do we do here? Do we do what everybody, if you remember that week, there were big restaurant businesses who decided to cut deep early on, letting a lot of people go. And I understand that. We made the decision that what we're going to do is if one person has to go, everybody goes. So we didn't lay a single person off. We paid every partner, we paid every bill, and we acknowledged and knew that that was a risk. But we also decided that there's going to be things and opportunities that we must take if they come around. And it was prompted that day by a number of staff when we had closed the pizzerias had said, look, I actually need to send money home to my family in Italy. It was 8 or 9 people, and we thought, well, what can we do? And James, one of our founders, some years before, 4 or 5 years before, had innovated this product, Pizza in the Post, and we had it on Amazon, and nobody wanted it. It was really it was a vanity project to some extent. That it was a digression from what we should be doing. So we rolled that back out. Really, I remember we ordered 9 chest freezers one morning. We ordered 9 freezers on one day just to try and get the ice packs cold, and then learned it takes 3 days for ice packs to freeze. Just so you know, I'm sure you're all very curious. But we took 2 of our locations in Victoria and London Bridge, and we basically said, let's make some pizza and send it to people who are locked down. What we didn't know was the demand. And I think the initial, we We went on Instagram and said, we're going to do 50 of these today. And they were gone inside 10 seconds. So the following day, we did 500 and they were gone inside half a minute. And then the following day, we were very honest. We said, we've got 5,000. We've got no idea when you're going to get them. It'll be at some point in the next 4 weeks. And they sold within a day.
Wow.
From that point, over the next 12 months, we had a week where we sold over 15,000 in 1 week. We had a standalone facility in Herne Hill. I remember we had a dough mixer that would mix at 1 ton by weight of dough, a forklift truck. It was a serious operation. But what you talked about earlier, John, with experience is the number one thing that I still talk about. And it's the reason that we still have this business as part of Pizza Pilgrims today is everybody who connected with me or we sent it to would tell me about how they'd made pizza with their daughter or a loved one and they hadn't done it for several years, several months. It was never, that was the best 20 quid I ever spent. Or it's important that these things are priced right. It's important that they get them in good time, but it was the experience. Like people were just missing this connection with others. And that's what Pizza in the Post enabled us to do. And it enabled us to do it as a business because frankly, we wouldn't have survived without the revenue from that. We would have had to make some difficult decisions. But that's, the spirit of a startup, right? Our founders started on Berwick Street selling pizza for 18 months before there was a bricks and mortar. And that spirit remains today. And we've made loads of mistakes,
But you got that one right. And it's around talking delivery again now, but also staying on this Pizza in the Post topic of the packaging. The packaging was absolutely on the money for me.
It wasn't to start with, John.
Well, for the first 50, 500 again, possibly, sorry. But now, and are you still doing this, guys?
Yeah, we actually, the Pizza in the Post has its own designated website and its own team, and it's a subscription business really now. You can buy one, but we have 650 people to this day who still have a subscription who will get pizza weekly, bi-weekly or monthly. We also have a product in Ocado, which is essentially the same, but it's only the dough, the cheese and the tomatoes. And it's not the complete pizza. That was always the point with Pizza in the Post. Everything from the basil to the pepperoni to the cheese, we want to give you in your home. So yeah, it's still there, and it's it's not the key focus of the future of the business, but I would die in a ditch for it. I mean, I really, really love giving it away. It's being someone who doesn't live in London, and where I live, we don't have a Pizza Pilgrims yet. So the people I meet and you talk to them, I've heard of your brands, I've heard of your business. You can send them that, and it's the first introduction to it. It's really interesting because it's always about making pizza with their kids. And people are very complimentary of the quality, and that's wonderful. But it's another way to connect with people, and that's what brands do, right? Great brands, I think, understand that it's about how you make people feel, and Pizza in the Post generally makes people feel really great, and that's something we love.
Definitely. What I would do, Peter, is urge our listeners, if they haven't done this, do it, because like I say, I did it in COVID. I didn't realise you were still doing it, but I'll be ordering it now. But do it, because actually it's engagement, whether it's with your husband, your wife, your partner, your children. It's that fun element. So restaurant experience. Is it a restaurant experience? No, it's not. But what it is an experience in itself at home through delivery.
Well, that's a great suggestion for our visitors and our listeners. But unfortunately, not all of them live in the UK. and I don't know if Pizza in the Post is available outside the UK. I guess not at the moment.
No.
But, okay. But the story is really interesting. And I guess it's sort of emblematic of delivery in general, in that the rules are still being learnt, that what is being done today isn't necessarily what was being done a year ago or 2 years ago. So the world of delivery is changing, and it's partly changed by consumers, their needs. It's partly changed by consumers reacting to the product. It's partly changed by the restaurant reacting to the consumer. All of these things mean, to my mind, that delivery that we see today, and acknowledge it isn't what we had 2 or 3 years ago, and it's probably not what we're going to see in 3 years' time. But also along the way, and in that process of change, there's been quite a lot of disruption. And Gavin, you mentioned redesigning your stores. Not all of them suitable, but a process of redesign is part of delivery. Changing the way that kitchens work is all part of delivery. So I guess my question is, how much does delivery, or how much has delivery disrupted restaurant businesses over the last few years?
Yeah, I think it definitely has. I remember 6 years ago when I joined the team, there was a pretty mixed view of what delivery was, and it was generally around riders with motorbike helmets in pizzerias. And I think what you have to do is say, look, these are an extension of our brand, and now we treat the riders as if they're members of our team. So, and I think a lot of restaurant businesses have done that. Does it impact the experience in a restaurant? I think it does. I think in a relatively casual, fast-moving pizzeria like ours, you can kind of embrace it, because we don't want to be a fully polished Italian restaurant. That's not what we are. We're a pizzeria that's come from street food, and actually a bit of hustle and bustle kind of adds to the flavour of what we do. That wouldn't be the same in a £100 a head spend, full dining restaurant. But I suppose what you've got to do is think about, what can I do to affect that? There are a small number of our pizzerias that have disproportionately high amount of revenue through delivery. So we look at design, we look at what we sell and when we sell it, and if necessary, we can turn it off. And it's not something we want to do, because frankly, it affects your revenue and your algorithm within the platform. But if we have pinch points, we encourage the teams to suspend services on the platform so that we can deliver it correctly. It happens very rarely now, and we are looking for ways to be able to increase capacity. We have a store in a pizzeria, in Liverpool Street, and we've just put a second oven in. It's the first time we've ever retrospectively put a second oven in a site, and we've taken it as an opportunity not just to add a second oven, which has allowed us to never turn down any delivery or just eat or takeaway business. But we've put an electric oven next to our gas oven. So we're really testing now at capacity the potential of an electric deck oven, because the electric ovens don't regenerate heat as quickly as a gas oven.
It's about disruption, and I'd just like to disrupt the episode for a second and just say that if you're enjoying the show, please consider supporting us by leaving a 5-star rating on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. Your ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help more people discover our content. Plus, it's the best way to show your appreciation for the hard work that the Delivery World team, the Avico team, and our fabulous guests put into each and every episode. So go ahead, hit that 5-star button. There are full instructions in the show notes. And let's continue with today's fantastic episode and ask Gavin whether you've got anything you want to add to this idea of disruption caused by delivery in the running of a restaurant business.
I just think we'll need to adapt. I think customer demands are changing. I think people are finding more and more occasions with delivery. So I myself would have used Deliveroo 3-4 years ago just on a Friday night, and now you find yourself ordering at different times of the day and week. I think that will continue to grow. I think we've got to be able to work in harmony with delivery aggregators. And I think the things I've talked about around design and your product and the trust between the partner and the aggregator is super important. And that's something we're working hard on to make sure that we just understand the needs of the guests in the future.
You say there with regard to different meal times, so let's say blurring of meal times, and we're seeing lots of things out there for brunch now. It's their ideas within the team at Pizza Pilgrim that actually you are a full day offer, but you could open from 10 and do it all the way through to the evening, do it brunch, and is that there with the blurring?
I think the opportunity is at the moment, for example, the Just Eat for Business customer is corporate, and the average order is over £200. So we get all of those orders actually 3 to 4 hours ahead, sometimes the day before, and they all leave pizzeria between 11 a.m. and midday. So that's the initial sort of, how do we extend hours? We've looked at late night. I read something recently that said Domino's take 37% of their annual revenue after midnight, which I thought was
Crazy.
water.
Crazy.
Tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Wow. What do people eat after midnight?
Quite. So I think there's some low-hanging fruit. Our core business, let's not forget, is pizzerias on the high street, and that's what it will always be. Now, do I think there is opportunities to try some things? Yeah, we tried something a couple of years ago, actually, Picnic Pilgrims, where you could order on Deliveroo and you got your pizza, you got a drink, you had the tablecloth, so you could go and literally sit in the park. You even did a Spotify playlist. So I think that's, again, leaning into the experience, opening up yourself to different occasions. So yeah, I think so, John. I think there's definitely got to be a bit of listening, and listening to what our customers say, and also listening to what, the aggregators, Deliveroo understand the customer better than anyone. They follow the data and they create demand, right? Like all of the guys, it's Tasty Thursday on Deliveroo, Just Eat and Uber have their own. They're creating reasons to buy on their platform. Ultimately, people have returned to work, and Thursdays are busy in restaurants, and Tasty Thursday safe. Well, why not stay at home?
It strikes me that the way that you're talking about the delivery companies is not how everybody talks about them. It's sometimes expressed as a fight or a battle or whatever. You're stressing a partnership, and I naturally feel that partnerships work better than battles, but maybe not. But I wonder whether there are lessons to learn, whether there's a direction that this is going, whether the future of delivery relies on closer relationships with delivery companies. Without naming names, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I don't think the aggregators historically have done themselves any favours by changing terms, adding fees to the customer, making life difficult by, there's a lot more competition, so how do you stand out? I think their communication proactively wasn't great. And I think from a pizzeria perspective, we probably could do a better job of communicating what our plans are. I took the delivery team through our brand purpose deck, through our objectives for the year last week, and you could see that was the first time and that we'd shared that, and that was very important for them to understand how they might support our objectives. So yeah, I think it has been fractious, and I think it's because that market, as you've spoken to many times, Peter, is maturing, and I think they need to make money, and I think there's probably too many players, so they're all fighting. And I think I could see in the negotiations we had recently that the strategic objectives of each of the three big players here are very different. We knew what we wanted, and actually, I have to say, all the teams I've met in all three of those aggregators are exceptional people. They're trying to do their job well. But, you take Uber Eats, it's about market share. Like that's their objective right now. And that's not the same for Deliveroo. So I think understanding what they need, what they want, letting them know what we need, what we want, and trying to reach a bridge in the middle. It's as simple as that. It's the same with any partner we work with in our supply chain.
I think if you approach it from a relationship perspective, your argument is a very good one and holds a lot of water for me. I think part of the problem is, though, that a lot of people approach business decisions on a transactional basis. And what they see is somebody who's coming in and asking for 30% of their money, not offering a service that they would like to have, and it generally being a problem. And I guess for the health of the delivery industry in general, it ought to evolve in the relationship direction rather than the transactional direction. The benefit of a transactional relationship is that people know where they are and they can make their decisions as they want. Relationships need to be worked on much harder, I think.
I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. And I think that from what I can see, that all of the aggregator partners also recognise that. There are less occasions that they're fulfilling at the moment, I guess, than COVID times. And everybody wants to make money. So if you're in an environment where all you're necessarily bothered about is how much money you make, then maybe transactional relationship, lowest commission is where you want to be. But if we build businesses for the long term, right? We have weeks where sales are great, we have weeks where sales are not great. But ultimately, are we doing things? Are we making decisions that support our team, delighting our customers? And that is no different for delivery than it is in a pizzeria.
Yes, right. Yes, and you made the point, building for the long term.
Talking about building for the long term, I'd like to just ask you a couple of questions around, again, delivery, but more in detail about pizzas, because pizza's been around a long, long time for delivery. It's one of the classic, and you serve a great product, and it's got the thin base, etc. Got your tomato, it's got your cheese all on top. It's in a cardboard box. Yeah. How do you guys, or how do you evolve to make sure that pizza's warm when the consumer gets it? Because it's never going to be hot, yeah? None of us are daft enough to think that is going to be as hot as it would be when you get it from an oven to a table, as it will be at home. But how do you, one, get it there in a good condition without the delivery rider maybe bouncing up and down on his back over the speed bumps? But also, how's that evolution for Pizza Pilgrim come about?
Yeah, it's very, very topical for us at the moment, actually. I mean, our pizza box hasn't really changed in 10 years. We use a liner under the pizza now, which stops the dough sweating, and actually does keep the box the product very slightly warmer. We talk to the customer now on the box to say, look, if your pizza isn't hot, pop it in the oven at this temperature for a couple of minutes. It's not what we want, but it's a plan B. So I think it's a bit of that. We are actually spending some time at the moment with the packaging team, with Deliveroo, looking at how you can innovate pizza box. I can't quite work out at the moment, John, whether or not it's just an exercise in insanity, because if it hasn't changed in such a long time, there might be a reason. But it's a square box with a circular product, so there is air in there which will cool. But we've tried we did try a box that was made out of I think I'm right in saying it was seaweed. So it was completely biodegradable, and it looked like a flying saucer. So it was a much tighter, therefore kept the pizza hotter, but it disturbs the product, it sweats, and then your dough gets very, very chewy. So you don't want a box that's too tight. And then you've got to think, well, how do they stack? How will that rider interact with them? But I do think there will be things we can do. Our food team is actively working on it at the moment. And I would love to think if we can improve it 1%, it's an exercise worth doing.
100%.
Maybe the biggest things we can do, we look at the radius. So how far does your pizza travel from the pizzeria to the home? And sometimes you need to say, look, we'll take a haircut on the revenue, but the quality will be better. We've done that before. It's not technically within our gift to do that because it's a delivery decision. And something we talked with them about last week is there was a time a couple of years ago where every single time you ordered from one of these aggregators, that product came straight to you. What they've now done is they've introduced multiple drops, and you now pay a surcharge if you want it to come straight to you. Look, it's another way of generating revenue and then becoming more slick with their operations, but that can compromise our product. And that's something that we're looking at quite scientifically to say, well, look, if that's a problem, how do we get ahead of it? Do we need to make sure all of our customers only get the exclusive delivery to you? Do we need to reduce the radius? Or do we need to sell only certain products? We've made that mistake before. We have had a pizza that had a whole burrata on it, and we decided that would be a good idea to put that on delivery.
By the time we got there, was it a pizza covered in burrata 9 times out of 10, or?
Yeah, it was rolled quite how we expected it to land. But, we're getting better at all of those things, and I don't think anyone is a silver bullet at all. I think all of them will help. And just listening, we get so much feedback. We get, 1,000 Google reviews a week in the pizzerias, and we average about 4.9. We're really happy, but there's something we can improve on.
Yeah.
Deliveroo on metrics are good as well, but ultimately they will tell you. And you can see what the trend is. If it's this particular location is saying cold pizza, we know we need to look at the radius. We know we need to go and understand the operations a bit more. But you're right. I think you started it. It's very difficult to say that pizza is going to land at your doorstep the same as it would in the pizzeria. But there's things we can do to improve it. And that's, if you can be happy with that not being perfect, and I think we just need to get better. It will never be perfect.
It's interesting you spoke about the packaging, because Avico I work for we have it all the time with fries, cold and soggy fries. That's what our operators say to us, and it's around packaging. So people laugh at me when I say you need boxes with holes in them to let the steam out. You'll say exactly the same on the dough. And we spoke before, Peter, about the brioche buns on burgers, that food needs to breathe. If it can't breathe, then you've got the sogginess in there. And actually, I'd much prefer to personally get a pizza from yourself that was warm, even cold, that was crispy, because like you say, I can pop it in the oven. As soon as it goes soggy, it just doesn't work as well.
It's interesting. I look at Domino's as a business, and they're phenomenal, right? Their product lends itself to delivery. Yeah. It's a thicker dough. There's sugar in the dough. It keeps the dough. A Neapolitan pizza is not necessarily the perfect pizza style for delivery, but I think you've just got to try and improve it. I'm not saying we would ever change the dough to satisfy delivery. We wouldn't do that. Like, the absolute core of what we do is every decision. If it makes the pizza a little bit better, then we'll make that decision and we'll figure out how to pay for it. That's always been at the core of our decision making. We would never change the dough to satisfy delivery. I mean, I get why some have. I do. But I think it's a slippery slope. So you've just got to keep innovating, I think, is the answer.
So, Gavin, we've been talking for quite a long time, and I think we're beginning to approach the end. So is there anything that we've said that you either want to add to, or something that's popped into your head while we've been talking, that you think would be worthwhile noting? And if the answer to either of those questions is no, then maybe we can take a little view about the future. So sort of over to you, really.
No, I think we've talked quite broadly, haven't we? I'm so curious about where this space will go. I think more and more people, customers, will want to use delivery aggregators. I don't think that's going nowhere, and I think they'll use them more and more, and that will give us the opportunity to, I suppose, generate more revenue and therefore invest more in the space. But no, I'm just curious as to whether or not will people in 5 years' time be ordering on delivery platforms twice a day. I mean, kind of hope not, but if that happens, then we really will have to change our business model to support that one.
Right. So anything can happen. Well, not anything, but a lot could happen. And in a way, one can speculate about this or that or the other. But it may just be a waste of time because there are so many things that can change.
Yeah.
I mean, I find all this fascinating, learning from people about what they say, what the factors are that's driving the industry and so on. So I find all that fascinating. John, do you have any question?
Just on the one point you've made there, if we all around this table look back at 10, 15, 20 years ago, there wasn't the restaurant scene like it is now. It was more of people went to pubs, people went to bars, people went to nightclubs. And now that world has changed. That world isn't there what it used to be. And like you say, Gavin, everything just cycles and steps. Your business is absolutely set up to carry on these steps as it is now.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think so. We took a decision last year actually to invest the same amount of money that we would have invested in a new pizzeria and invest that refurbishing 2 sites, one in Canary Wharf, one in Carnaby Street. Both legacy sites for us have always done very well, but we did think very much about the operation. Like, is there more drinkers in Canary Wharf? There's much more delivery in Canary Wharf now. How can we use the kiosk we have to the side of our site in Kingsley Street? How can we drive the operation to be a bit more effective? So I think 100% the way we design a pizzeria today is different to even 12 months ago. So we have to go back and retrofit those pizzerias. How we understand more about the digital customer is fascinating and scary. The level of conversation in our meeting last week was holistically different to 12 months ago, let alone 5 years ago. I think standing out in that space, you'll have to spend money. You will have to spend on advertising. You will have to involve yourself in their campaigns if you want to succeed on their platforms. But yeah, I think what I don't want for us is for us to adapt in a way that only leans into. There are brands out there that you will know and love who half of their revenue is on delivery. Why would you lease space on the high street in London to pay an additional commission to service delivery? You may as well set up a dark kitchen. So I think for us the balance is about right. Where it gets too scary, we slow it down. And I would like to think that we can deliver you a better pizza and experience in-house now than we did a year ago and 2 years ago. Just got to keep listening, to what the customers are telling us and what the teams are telling us. And because they have the answers, it's no different, to 100 years ago. People leave their house to spend money in a restaurant because they want to have an experience. Like, I don't think it's transactional. I really don't. Why would you go and spend that money that you could easily spend half in a supermarket? So we're a hospitality business, first and foremost, that sell and obsess about great pizza. And our teams love doing both of those things, and delivery is an extension of it. I'm really excited to see where it goes, though.
Well, hang on here and you'll find out.
That word again, Peter, experience.
Yes, experience.
It keeps coming.
Exactly. So, Gavin, I think that's the end. We can carry on talking for hours yet. So thank you very much. How can people contact you if they want to? LinkedIn?
Certainly, yeah. If anybody has got any questions or is interested to come and work with us or any questions at all, my email is gavin@pizzapilgrims.co.uk, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to field any questions, any people.
And that's also the clue to contacting Pizza Pilgrims, which is pizzapilgrims.co.uk. Okay, thank you.
On Pete's site, Pizza in the Post is...
Yeah, you can find that on our website, but pizzainthepost.co.uk is also...
Make sure you get them, everyone.
So a big thank you to our fantastic guest, Gavin Smith, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Thank you, Gavin. And here's a reminder that whether you're a delivery company, a marketplace app, a technology company, a restaurant owner, an investor, or simply someone who loves to order takeout, the Delivery Profits is the perfect way to stay informed and ahead of the curve in the world of food delivery. You'll find the Delivery Profits on Spotify, Apple, or on the other places where you normally get your podcasts. And please support the show by leaving a 5-star rating. Your ratings and reviews help more people discover our content. And there's more at www.thedelivery.world/The Delivery Profits. Tune in to the next edition of The Delivery Profits for the insights, interviews and analysis that will keep you ahead of the game in this exciting and ever-evolving industry. And with that, it's goodbye from today's Delivery Profits. That's Gavin and John and me. Goodbye.
Goodbye.